Okay, we're showing you, I'm cross drilling a set of rotors I got from O'Reilly's for the rear of my truck. I'll also be putting some cross drilled ones on the front. Um, Showing you with a drill press, just a simple Harbor Freight drill press. I do have a Bridgeport mill with a rotary table, and I could be doing this much easier and a lot quicker, but I'm showing you that you can do it with your hand tools and some simple tools that you can get from Harbor Freight or from your local tool store or hardware store. The cross drilling process, I'll just tell you my own interesting story. My dad had a 94 Suburban 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive, and he rode the brakes like a little old lady. He would warp rotors, front rotors on that truck about every 6 months, literally every 6 months. And we would put new pads and new rotors on it, and he would warp them again. So anyway, what I did was I cross-drilled the rotors on it, and then he owned that truck for another 6 or 7 years, and it never warped any more rotors, and he never went through another set of pads. So proven point of how well the cooling effect of the cross-drilled rotors. And lots of people will tell you, oh, but you gotta actually slot them and drill them, otherwise it doesn't allow the gas to escape, or blah blah blah. Been running around with Porsches for years, and Porsche's been doing cross-drilled rotors since the 60s and 70s, and never had any issues on their cars. They still do it today. You know, I'm sold on it. So anyway, I cross-drill my own rotors. Sometimes I'll buy some drilled rotors if I don't have time to drill my own rotors, but usually I cross-drill my own. So here we are. We're drilling a set of rear 2500 HDs. This one we actually have set up. We laid it out. We counted the vanes. We drew the lines in the middle of the vanes, and then it had 36 lines. So you divide that by a number that's divisible by 3, 4, or 5, whatever you want in your setup pattern. 36 divides by 3, real easy. So as you see over here, the one I've already done, it's a set of 3s, and I drill them directionally. So there is a left and a right. And I've never had issues with these once I do a drilling on them. The truck we're putting this on is one of our tow rigs, and I'm going to be using the semi-metallic pads and these rotors. I'm going to do a set of fronts as well. So anyway, I'm just showing you the process. Thanks. Okay, we're doing the rear brakes on our 2007 2500 HD Chevrolet Silverado Classic. This has the 14 bolt full float rear axle in it. It's a factory disc brake rear truck. The rotors were eat up, the pads were eat down. The prior owner had wallered the bolts out in the caliper brackets themselves, so we had to custom make some bolts. We had to grind the bolts out and then actually welded 19 millimeter nuts to them, and now we've made our own bolts. I also cross-drilled the rotors. Rotors are just standard rotors from O'Reilly's, and that's so it'll dissipate heat better. So we're going to put this together. The emergency brake shoes inside the rotor still look good, so we're just going to install this. I've already preloaded the new pads. I painted the calipers, and the caliper's still wet. The problem before was with the type of bolts that they had from the factory that you couldn't get to the upper caliper bolt out. This bolt right here, you couldn't get it out before. The rest is just typical brake job. Just tighten down your bolts, make sure everything's good and tight, put your hose back on, bleed your brakes, put your wheels back on. The good thing about these new O'Reilly's rotors is they're primered and painted, so they don't rust. Now I made it so that with the new bolts that a 19mm wrench fits it. Easy peasy now, because it was a T55 inner torque spit wrench, and so they would round off really easy. And did. Prior owner had done that. Here next week or so we'll do the fronts. We'll cross drill those and put new semi-metallic severe duty pads. I pinched off the brake hose with a pair of vice grips, needle nose vice grips, so I didn't lose all the brake fluid. Make sure you don't lose the copper crush washers. Put the hose back on. Tighten it up and bleed it.
The rear passenger side already done.